Hi, my name's Phil, and a couple of days ago I got this message on Facebook from a friend of mine asking me how Bitcoin works. And so this is actually a friend of a friend, and he's asking me, he's getting all these people on some website pushing Bitcoin to him, and he really needs to understand what it is, and he's asking me if I can explain it to him. And I said I can. It just might take a little while. So today I want to take this opportunity and create a short video to explain how Bitcoin works. So let's jump into it. Now let's start with why do we have Bitcoin in the first place? The reason for its existence is, or the purpose of Bitcoin is so that two people can transact with each other peer-to-peer. That means without any other third party, like a bank. Now, in general, we don't have digital money, or digital money is technically impossible. And the reason is because if you take something like a coin or a dollar bill, you can't create a digital version of it, because anytime you create a digital version of anything, it can always be perfectly copied. So if I create a document that is to represent a coin or a bill and send it to you, you can copy it as often as you want, and therefore you could copy money. That doesn't work. So what we do, we use banks or some third party like PayPal that basically creates a record of who has how much money. A ledger, who has how much money, and then if I send you money from my PayPal account, PayPal basically just updates their record. So I communicate via the internet by sending a transaction to PayPal and basically tell, hey, send money from my account. But what they actually do, they just change two entries in their ledgers and change my number and your number in their ledger, and this is basically how the money gets transferred. So the money doesn't actually get sent through the internet, and the process of managing it is basically some third party doing the accounting of the money. And so in Bitcoin, we want to be able to do this directly without a third party. We can't change the fact that we can't have digital tokens or digital money. So what do? We create a ledger, both of us, instead of the third party, and we both have the same ledger. So we have a new money system. You have an account, I have an accountant, and we both can verify who has how much money in the account. And so if we want to transact, we both have to update the account at the same time. How the hell are we going to do that? This is where the genius invention of Bitcoin comes in. In Bitcoin, we're actually part of a whole network of many people, or many nodes. This is like a node in this network. And every one of these nodes has a copy of this ledger. And when I want to send you money, I'm going to send a transaction to one of the nodes of the network that I'm connected with. That node is going to verify whether the transaction is actually valid, meaning, do I have the money? Have I signed it over to somebody else? And if everything is correct, that node will propagate the transaction to all the nodes that it is connected with. And they do the same thing, and instantaneously, practically, this transaction gets communicated to everybody that is part of the network. And so now we have this transaction, and there's a process where this ledger gets updated via a consensus mechanism within this network. So the key thing is that everybody in the network has a copy of this ledger, and this ledger is called the blockchain in Bitcoin. So this is how it works. And I don't actually send money directly to my counterparty or to the guy that I want to send money to, but I'm basically transacting to the network updates the ledger. The person that I want to send the money to can look into this ledger and see that now the money is in his account. That's actually how that works. And that's it. That's how Bitcoin works. It's a little crazy because it sounds really kind of complicated that we have this consensus, but this is really the genius of the Bitcoin invention. There is software that manages this all nicely and allows us to have this consensus mechanism of the database that is shared among everybody. So this distributed network of the distributed ledger is shared among everybody, and the Bitcoin network and the Bitcoin software allows us to basically keep this database in sync with everyone in the world. So super amazing, and this allows me then to just kind of do a little change in this entry by sending a transaction, and that way I can give you money. And that's it. And because effectively I can peer-to-peer, I can directly send money to anybody, nobody has to ask for permission, anybody can join this network and just be part of it. Just like the internet, anybody can sign on and look at web pages. This way anybody can just sign up, create Bitcoin addresses, and receive and send money that way. And this was invented by Satoshi Nakamoto. By the way, we do not know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. This is very interesting. Could be one guy, could be a group of people, but someone or some group published a paper in 2008. And the first sentence in there is a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. So Bitcoin is all about the peer-to-peer sending of money. And then he explains how this works. This paper is about 8 pages long, so you should really read it. You should be able to understand it even if you're not super technical. One of the genius of Satoshi is that he's able to explain this completely new fundamental technology in a paper of 8 pages. We've had Bitcoin since January 2009. This is when Satoshi released the software and made it open source so anyone can download. You can still download that version today and run a node of Bitcoin this way. By now there are more simpler versions that you can run on your phone, and they're just a little bit easier to use, but the principle is still the same and they're using the same protocol. So you can basically download this. You can buy Bitcoin on exchanges, and different exchanges work in different countries. So depending where you live, you gotta figure out how you can maybe buy some Bitcoins, and this is how this price is created. Because there's no real economy behind these Bitcoins, the price is extremely crazy, goes up and down, very volatile, so be very careful when you invest in it. So you see here on this chart on the right side, on the left side, there's this little bip. You can see here the price went like from $1 to about $30, and then again all the way down to like a couple of dollars, like $2 or something like that. Really, really crazy. Today, it's not quite as crazy anymore because there's a big market behind it. You know, there's somewhere between like 60 to hundreds of millions of Bitcoins that are in dollars that are being traded every day. So, but be careful when you invest into it. I do want to go over, again, just kind of the explanation of what Bitcoin is. And so the reason why it was invented, why is the peer-to-peer transfer of value or money. We can also transfer data, by the way, this way. And the way we do this is we use this decentralized database, the public ledger. And the decentralized public ledger is only possible because we manage this ledger via a consensus mechanism. So instead of one person or one entity or one company or one bank managing the ledger, we have a consensus protocol with which this ledger is continuously updated. So in other words, anytime I send a transaction, the transaction only becomes reality when the entire world agrees that my transaction is valid. And at that point, it can never be undone unless you convince everybody, the entire consensus, to undo my transaction. So this is why, as long as the consensus protocol works, we are perfectly secure. The implementation of this whole thing, so of the actual money transfer, is a transaction. So anytime you do anything, you are doing a transaction. This decentralized database is called a blockchain. So also be careful when people say blockchain, blockchain, blockchain. Blockchain is just the data layer of an entire new kind of system, right? So it is not everything is the blockchain. Blockchain is a piece of an entire system. And the consensus mechanism in Bitcoin specifically is called proof of work. That basically means we have a race of people doing work, and whoever does the work, does most of the work, basically wins. And when he wins, he gets a little reward. And so this is the mining. I can maybe explain that in a future little video. I don't want to make this too complex, but there's basically a consensus mechanism that is called proof of work. And what are the advantages of all of this? Well, the advantages of the peer-to-peer transaction is that we can get rid of a whole bunch of overheads. Think about when we use a bank to transfer money, we need laws and regulations. Why do we need this? Because if I give the money my bank, or the bank has power over my money, I need to be able to trust that the bank doesn't run away with the money, that they don't cheat, that everything is going the way it's supposed to go. And in order to do that, we need laws, we need rules, we need police, we need courts, we need all that crap. So if people cheat, we can throw them into jail. And that is all very expensive, not just financially, but it also makes things complicated. And so all of this is gone in Bitcoin. And this is really the power. There's no permission, there is no I have to worry about, if this is safe or anything like this. As long as the consensus mechanism works, we have perfect security. So we need to trust the consensus mechanism, and we need to trust that we have consensus, but once we can trust that, everything else is taken care of. And that's really the power of it. Another inherent attribute or feature or advantage of Bitcoin is that it is completely transparent. So automatically we have a record of everything that ever happened. And the advantage of a consensus protocol is that it is democratic, it is run by game theory and math. So we can trust it because we can trust in math, science, and game theory. So this proof of work mechanism works because people that do the right thing get rewarded, and if you don't do the right thing, you get punished. So everybody automatically does the right thing, and this is then basically leads to consensus. So if you don't follow the rules, you basically just get extracted from the consensus, and then you're not part of it anymore. And so as soon as you cheat, it doesn't get accepted, and then it doesn't work. So cheating just does not work, and that is really the power of it. All right, so this is my little video of how Bitcoin works. I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe if you want more of it, let me know. If this is all too abstract and theoretical, let me know, and we'll do a follow-up video on how to get Bitcoin, how to send Bitcoin, and so on and so forth. That is even easier. But the most important thing is to understand why it works and how it works. And so this, I hope I was able to explain to you. Enjoy, and thank you for watching.